All right, fam. You're probably wondering, what's the deal? Why is there a episode of Primitive Rhythm Machine in my audio feed when I was told that it wasn't going to be a thing anymore? So here's what's up. Primitive Rhythm Machine is sort of going to be resuscitated as Patreon-only content for the Geek Devotions Network. So this is going to be the last public feed, but it will continue over on the Patreon channel. So if you want to hear more Primitive Rhythm Machine or other bonus content, head on over to patreon.com and become a patron of Geek Devotions, and you can receive more Patreon exclusive content. And now, on with the show.
John Haryu, Steve MacDonald, Music Theory, Interviews, Music Theology, Primitive Rhythm Machine.
Hello, everybody. It is me, John. I know I had promised everybody that I was going into hiatus with this podcast, but there has been a band that has jumped on the scene that I am just ridiculously excited about, and I had to resurrect this podcast to put them in your field of vision. They just dropped an album, and if you've been on the socials or the Discord, you've heard me ranting about them. I have with me in my virtual studio today Eric, Jacob, and Johnny from Voluntary Mortification. Their album Suffer to Rise just dropped. You may have seen my review of it on the Geek Devotions website. So hello, guys. Welcome to the show. You guys want to introduce your voices so our listeners know who everybody is.
I'm Johnny, drums.
I'm Jacob on the guitars.
Eric on bass.
All right. So you guys are a fairly recent addition to Rottweiler Records, if I remember the investment chain right.
True.
I know since Sean sold Rottweiler to Mythic Panda, they've been kind of on a signing spree. So lots of new bands putting out new albums, but for some reason not for some reason now that I've heard it, but you guys managed to float to the top of the promotion chain at Rottweiler, and rightfully so, because check out the album review, but your guys' new album's pretty freaking magical.
Thank you.
One of the things yeah, one of the things that I've noticed that just basically sticks out incredibly, especially even within the Christian metal community, is how direct you are with addressing the Christian messaging with your music, your album art, and just things that you discuss on your Facebook page, even recently with a member of your band getting baptized, which was a shock to me because most bands don't get that personal when it comes to your specific relationship with Jesus. What was that an intentional decision to be that faith forward with your music, or did it happen organically, or how did that come about?
Jacob can handle
Yeah,
it.
I mean, I think that's kind of been the thing from the beginning. This band primarily started because Connor, the vocalist, and I, we were serious about practicing our faith. We're trying to live as disciples of Jesus and trying to raise our families in that way. And so really our faith kind of sets the tone for everything we do in life. And so honestly, I don't know if I would be putting time into a band and playing music as much as I've enjoyed it if it didn't have like some kind of like greater purpose to it. And so I think that's been the idea. I think Connor and I and then the other members that they've joined have been really interested and supportive of being who we are and saying what we believe in, and kind of letting that be an invitation to people to go further if they want. So yeah.
Well said.
When I answered the Craigslist ad, it was Christian metal, and that's what got my attention on it.
Yeah.
That's how I ended up on here, was just a Craigslist ad. So.
That's pretty interesting that it was just Christian metal. That's a very broad category just to throw out there on there, because I mean you're ranging from Living Sacrifice to Striper. I mean, what did you have any reservations when you were responding to that ad? Like you might end up wearing spandex and having to
I wear spandex on the weekends anyways, so
oh, hey.
Yes.
I mean,
now.
far be it from me to yuck your yum, sir. I'm not gonna...
Yeah, no, I was curious as to what it was, and I jumped on. We had a little hiatus where I took off and then came back.
So that's actually super interesting to me, because when you walk into that type of a situation where it's just like you're responding to a fairly generalized ad, were you expecting a project as heavy as Voluntary Mortification is, or is that even where your background is musically?
I am not super familiar with deathcore music. I grew up with thrash and punk rock and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really what I grew up playing or listening to. But the way that the songs flowed and stuff, the first time they really played me what the songs are, I just had a big old grin on my face and I was ready to go.
No, we got to go back a little bit. About 3 years ago. So Eric originally was in the band, and then I came on board, and we were all trying to figure this out. And then Eric had to leave for personal reasons, and then Jacob was not with us that time either. And then so I'm with Connor, and we were trying to figure out what to do. We got Jacob back, and then really it just morphed into where we are now. And then, long story short, there were only 3 of us actually wrote the album. And so when you said in your article about the 2 guitars, it was only Jacob. So
I was wondering if there's going to be a little bit of blowback because I had said that in the article. I'm like, gosh, I hope I didn't make anybody mad by saying that. Because I mean, seriously, when I had writ my English when I had wrote that section in there, I'm like, I am really just picking nits at this juncture, and that's really what it felt like, is because I was inclined to give a 5 out of 5 score on the read, but it's just like I didn't want the first album review I was throwing up on the site to be a perfect score for one, and I think perfect score should be next to impossible to attain. Otherwise, if everybody's perfect, then nobody's perfect, if that makes sense. So so there should always be room for constructive criticism, but if I was to go back with the information that was given me and with and the understanding that there was only one guitarist on that album, then I probably would have omit that from I was working from a position of 2 guitarists. So if you'll excuse
that's okay. I think there was there might have been a disconnect between like we had publicists put out our current lineup and the album credits said something else, but it's we're a full band now, and
we needed another guitar player, but it wasn't working, so we just stuck with Jacob, and we had a bass player, and we had to let him go right before we went in studio. So Jacob did bass and guitars. I kind of worked with him on the bass a little bit. I did all the drums, Connor did all the vocals. It was just 3 of us. And then we brought Eric, and we begged Eric to come back. Eric went in studio with us, but he didn't have any of the songs down yet. So
I was comedy relief.
Yeah, he was helping it out. I just thought he was back. But and then Matt just all of a sudden he answered a Craigslist ad, and here's Matt, and it was like it's a perfect fit. Now we have that full guitar sound that you were talking about. So when we're playing live, it hits hard, and we really wanted to have that slamming, headbanging sound, and with that extra guitar, it brings it in. So next album, you'll get it, John. You'll get that 2 tone that you're wanting.
Yeah, I'm super excited to write with another guitarist. I think it's going to be really fruitful, and a lot of things open up with that. So yeah, we're excited with what we've been able to do so far, and we definitely feel like we can definitely improve on that. And it's really exciting.
And we're honored with your comments too. I mean, we don't need a 5 out of 5. I mean, 4 out of 5 was. I mean, we were so blessed and honored by that.
Well,
appreciate your kind words. We worked really hard on this album, really hard.
And it shows. You can definitely tell that there was an appreciation for the craft on the album, especially in the songsmithing. And with what you just said there, as far as Jacob playing the bass on the album, I'm super curious. as to with you, Eric. Now that you are back in the band, do you play what Jacob does on the album, or did you construct your own bass parts that are going to be a little bit different live? Or
I'm different live. I fiddle around a little bit more, and I took the mixes from the studio and took the bass out, and that's how I learned a lot of the song. So
Yeah.
I play a few things that like he plays, and the
Yeah.
rest of the wrong notes are all mine.
Yeah.
It's
My
a
doing.
brutal
I
element.
mean, it was just, I felt bad because it was like, you know, we want to sound consistent with the album, but it's also like, Eric, I don't want you to be constrained by what I basically threw together and, you know, was really following the guitar. And then our producer helped, Josh Schroeder really helped kind of make the bass less of a background instrument and more
Josh
something that had
Schroeder.
it. So,
Thank God for
so
Josh.
yeah, I'm really happy to see Eric kind of taking the songs in his own and making his own because
Yeah.
I mean these
Should.
guys, Eric and Matt, they've been really like humble and willing to come on and basically like learn a bunch of songs that we wrote. I mean, so I don't feel like not everyone can do that. I think there's a lot of egos out there, and so I'm really happy they've embraced it, and I'm also happy that there's going to be you know, Eric's making the bass lines his own, and Matt's, you know, starting to feel comfortable riffing too, and so we're excited about writing again, even though we just came out with this album. So,
it's nice that Eric wants to be able to fiddle around a little bit and change it, because he and I are working together. We're trying to get even more brutal and deep with our tones, so especially when we play live. We really want to cause an earthquake, you know, with kicks and the bass as deep as possible. So I like that he's coming up with stuff so he and I can connect when we're playing and just really bring the house down is what we want to try to do. You know?
yeah, with those super hefty breakdowns that I was seeing on the bass space. So
Love break.
What's that?
We love breakdowns, man.
As you
Hefty
should.
breakdowns.
You know who doesn't like breakdowns? Terrorists.
Terrorists.
That's how you tell people apart.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Ask them at the airport, you know, do you like breakdowns? Take them in.
Okay, so you had mentioned Matt. He is the new addition in the guitar department.
Yes.
Has some amazing hair, and
oh, he's gonna love that.
It's fantastic. I'm telling you. And that kind of brings me to another question. Another thing that stuck out about your band specifically is, as much as the quote true metal fans out there would hate to admit it, a giant part of the metal scene's gatekeepers have a tendency to base that on almost like a fashion, as far as you don't fit the role that you're in. I'm looking at you three short hairs on the screen here.
And no hair.
And you know, I mean, it's definitely a aesthetic that I can relate to. Although when you look at Matt and Connor, they kind of hit more of that extreme metal aesthetic. Has that ever presented itself as being a problem for you guys when you go out and play at all?
No. Actually, I want Jacob to wear a cardigan on stage. That'd be great.
That would be.
That's
amazing.
so funny. I'm the least metal looking person ever.
He shreds. He's the least metal looking guy. We call him Mr. Rogers, by the
way. When I showed up to practice in sweaters, like coming back from work, I never heard the end of it. So I'm like apparently I'm like the Mr. Rogers of the band. So
that into SpongeBob shorts. Or whatever.
Oh yeah, I had pineapple shorts.
Pineapple shorts.
So no, I personally embrace it. Like I was joking about getting a tattoo because I have none, and Connor was like, "Don't do it." And it's like, so I actually like embracing like looking the least metal as possible, and like honestly just letting my down-tuned guitar like do the talking on stage. So,
that's it.
Just be you, man.
Yeah,
just
I'm just
you,
bro.
I really can't do anything else. So, so no, it's funny you mentioned that.
Well, I was questioning whether or not I wanted to mention it because I didn't want to be that guy and be like, "You guys aren't metal," because
hey, you know what? We let the music speak for ourselves, man.
Yeah, that's all
as it should be.
Yeah.
So deathcore, that's a relatively new subgenre for the metal scene. And was it a conscious decision to chase that subgenre, or was it something that had happened organically?
Yeah, organically, I think.
Well, Connor, the vocalist, I mean, he really, I got to give him credit for.
He's the breakdown guy.
Well, he really, like, I think he had his sights set on deathcore, and like specifically like just absolutely brutal deathcore. And his influences. The funny thing, you were asking about, Eric's taste, and actually a lot of us don't come from the same deathcore background, but yet we come together and just put together like as brutal music as we can. So
I totally do.
Yeah. Connor,
my playlist on my phone is all deathcore.
well, because like Eric was mentioning, like punk and thrash, and like I'm totally a thrash guy. Like it comes out of my riffs. Like I just want to go fast. And Johnny's got the same thing too. But
I like the thrash.
and then Matt actually has like, I don't know if I should be like disclosing this, but he has like no metal background whatsoever, and so he's like learning. He's like studying up on the go, and so we bring a lot of different influences, but we're all kind of united behind like Connor definitely like really had the vision of like, let's make deathcore. Like we're not going to do like singing vocals, probably because he just doesn't want to sing clean, but like he just wants like go all the way with it sort of thing. And you mentioned Impending Doom before the show, and I think really they are a measure of how far you can go with like legitimate brutal death metal. Like the Christian metal scene spans a lot of different, from what I've listened to, a lot of different heaviness, and some sounds better than others lyrically, sound wise, but like Impending Doom is like the real deal. Honestly, I put them up there as like
well, you should.
Yeah, and so I think in that vein, like and that's what you see in the album is like trying to just go as brutal as you can to really wake up, like let people notice that are into this music, to really wake them up and get them to listen, and then maybe later be like, oh wow, those guys are Christian, those guys are coming with a message. Like we want to come across as legit as possible. We want to camouflage ourselves, if you will, in the scene properly, and that for that, I mean, we really want to study the craft. We want to go hard on the vocals, we want to go hard on the drums. We want those guitars as brutal as possible, and a lot of our songwriting reflects that.
Yeah, and we the thing about what we're doing is that we're not trying to. We all have a lot of influences, of course. I mean, all of us have our backgrounds, but we're not trying to like be the fastest double kicks you can do or the speediest riffs. We're not trying to do anything like that. We just, this sounds cool. We're making a song around it. We do. Mm-hmm. I don't have to play my kicks at lightning fast because it doesn't need to be that way. It just sounds good the way it is. If I need to go fast, I can. I can slow it down. The guitars, the bass, everything is just, if it sounds cool and brutal, we just do it. So we don't want to sound like anybody, but we do sound like a lot of people. You know what I mean? It's just kind of a mix. So hopefully we are a little bit more, unique. I don't know.
We're not going for the stereotype because I don't know what the stereotype is.
Right. That's why I don't even know if we are deathcore.
I'm glad you said that because I was really worried about saying that, because like the more I listen to us and the more I'm like studying deathcore, I'm like, we're not like deathcore to a T, but like what you're listening to is like,
death metal-y, thrashy.
It's there's a lot of different things going on. And so, I see labels as just trying to help people catch up and just get a general frame of mind of like where you're coming from. But, you got to listen to it and kind of experience it yourself and recognize, maybe this doesn't go in a certain box, but, it has different things. And that's what the great thing about music. It can be all different.
And like you said, all the songs are like unpacking a present. Every song is different. It doesn't just all blend together. It's like, oh, what's this song about now? And it has a totally different feel to it than the one you just listened to. And we didn't do that on purpose. It's just how it is. We just, that's a cool song, let's make it. And we put it all together.
And that was one thing I really wanted to point out when I was doing the review, was that you guys, like deathcore is just, when I use it to describe you guys, it's more of just a frame of reference to give somebody an idea of the general concept of what the sound is going to be on there. But I mean, there were spots on there I'm like, okay, they're playing around with some funeral doom here, and okay, we got some slam going, at this point,
Black
and I
metal.
feel like a complete geek because I'm throwing out all these different subgenres that are so
It's okay.
minute that people are gonna be like, "What's slam?" And I'm like, "You got to do your homework if you're gonna try to compartmentalize it." So I mean, there was a lot sprinkled throughout this album. And I mean, there was a lot more groove on Silence than, for instance, if you were to try to dive into Crush the Head of the Serpent.
Yeah, and
so-
That's his fault.
well, that's the thing is, you know, yeah, all the songs are a little different because for me, the background is, I'm probably one of the least musically experienced people here. Like, I don't have any formal music training, and yet this band, so like going 3 years back, is really like my first foray into writing music, and specifically writing the guitars. I mean, I didn't write anything else besides guitar. So what you see in the album is kind of an evolution of how I approach things and what I was into at the time over, you know, a period of months. And so the producer, Josh Schroeder, really noticed that too.
Josh.
And it was interesting that kind of all happened by accident. I mean, it was really just my evolution. Like, so like, for instance, like the week that I was into like pick scrapes, you know, like maybe when I was discovering Spirit Box, and they're like all about those pitch scrapes. That's when I was writing Valley Slaughter, and I was using those in the riff. So like you see like little flashbacks of what I was looking into during the time. So
it's so cool.
It's interesting how it all came together. So that's why it's very like, you know, all over the place, but like hopefully like in a good way.
I think it's in a good way, but yeah, the influences are there from all of us. But like the groovy stuff, I mean, it's kind of my fault in there because when he's doing the riff, I'm like, well, this sounds like a cool beat here, and it just turns out to be kind of a groove riff, and I'm like, all right, it works.
Yeah, I wrote guitars from the pure like, here you go, here's some riffs. I have little to no idea what I want for drums. Like this probably sounds like this is a breakdown. Like I would probably expect a breakdown here, but
I got you covered.
It was purely like the writing process for this album was interesting, which is why I'm really interested to see how we're going to go about it in the next album, whether it's formal or kind of comes up organic, because I literally would just write the riffs, then we listen to it like, oh yeah, it's sweet. And then Johnny would drum it, and then we would kind of hand off to each person. So it was very like, and there were some parts we wrote together.
Yeah, we'd sit in our practice pad, you and I, for like 2 hours and start working something out. And I think it was the Democratic Society. You and I just sat down, and
there was one that we
might have been.
You had a lot of influence in the call. Those little stop starts.
Yeah, the call was. Everything was good. We all put our 2 cents into it, or all 3 of us, whatever. But
Connor, despite not playing any instruments, he'd usually be the one that would be like, all right, we're gonna make this breakdown, or we're gonna go even slower and grindier. So yeah. I give him a lot of credit for some of the most memorable breakdowns, that some of the favorites that I like to play.
Well, like the End of Crush.
Yeah, End of Crush.
You had it set up to where it was all going to be just even all the way to the end, and then Connor's like, we should slowly break this thing down. And then he presents to me, we need to get down to 25 BPM on the last one. And it took me a while to figure out, what are we going to do? I had a metronome sitting right here, and I'm like, boom, and then
just completely awkward silent. And it was so slow. I'm like, Connor, we sound stupid. Like, we look like we don't know how to play our instruments. He's like, no, like we got it. But then finally got the timing down, and like, I don't know. I mean, personally, we love it.
It's fun to end the show on that. Yeah.
We chose to make that song the last song primarily because of how it ends on the album and in our show. It just absolutely brutal.
It is slow.
Just slower and slower. And so, yeah, I mean, that was a team effort for sure.
It's definitely fun.
Yeah, he's got a great ear for that. You guys were playing more like 47 beats, and I wanted 25 there. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Singers, am I right?
Yeah.
Hey, it's working out.
Yeah. We all make it work somehow.
So another thing that I'm stupid excited about on this album is the artwork. I am super into physical media. I believe technology is slowly taking away everything I hold good and dear about everything. One of which is physical media. But So it's not uncommon for a lot of newer metal bands to kind of back
Overlook it.
burner the whole art
Yeah.
production for for their album, and really not put a whole lot of thought into it. Looking at you, Solid State, and I think and I saw your guy when Rottweiler had uploaded the album art for Suffer to Rise. The first thing that went through my head was, finally, there's a Christian metal band out there who's going to put album art out that's going to rival Slayer's albums. Because the first thing that that went through my head was, I'm looking at something that was at least one person in this band has probably listened to Rain and Blood.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can play it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're thrash boys.
Yeah. But
so
subject matter of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Anyway,
So
so
is the point. Right?
it's very exciting to me that you guys had got such great album art for that. Was that something that you guys were like, we really wanted to focus in on getting really solid art that can rival some of the better album covers out there, Christian or secular? Or was it just, hey, this is cool, let's use this?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Connor, I got it. Yeah, Connor's the brains behind that part of it. And we have a great artist too that did all that work. And that was almost like 1 year ago.
Yeah.
We started putting the art together. We only had one song.
Yeah. No.
Death Tremors.
Yeah, that album cover, like, I know we're not doing a video, but we could even show it to you because CDs are sitting over there. But yeah, all that was in Connor's head. But
the whole story in the cover.
I'm really glad you asked about that because yeah, I think it was really smart on Connor's part to recognize, like, we need art to go with our single, which makes sense now because, like, you need that when you have a little blurb on Spotify, and you need art for every single thing that you post on Facebook and Instagram. So I'm really glad we had that out front. And what I like about it, again, it's like, it's brutal. It goes all the way. It even made me a little uncomfortable at first, but I was trying to tell myself, like, okay, like, this isn't for, grandma in the church pews. Like, we are trying to get people's attention that listen to brutal stuff. Like you mentioned Slayer. Like, we want to capture that secular person's attention and show, like, hey, we're not prancing around here. We're brutal, but we have, like, a message behind it.
Yeah,
So
we don't have to worship Satan to be brutal. We can still be brutal and love God.
So quick anecdote about that. So we got a lot of compliments on the artwork, and it's a testament to a guy we found on Fiverr in Indonesia. We have his name in
Muhammad,
in the album credits.
He's so good.
And so a guy we found on the internet just whipped this thing up, and it was, like, incredible. And like
he's our guy forever.
He's, like, so generous. And we got compliments on it. And again, I don't want to be, like, name dropping, but again, our producer Josh Schroeder, who we were so fortunate to work with, so blessed to work with, done some really great things for in the metal scene, is well known. He said that, like, the album work was what was like, oh, that's really cool. Like, I kind of want to work with those guys. So that was like an in with it.
That was the end. He says, I see you guys are dedicated. You have album art already, and so I wanted to give you guys a shot because why would he bring a garage band in Michigan? But this guy's just produced Lorna Shore's last album. And very, very cool. But that was the artwork.
And not only that, but it's brutal. Like, it's not corny. It's not like, like I was going back there and trying to, like, do something in Microsoft Paint or something. Like, I feel like one thing that we can be proud of in this band is, like, when we've gone out and done stuff, we've tried to do it the right way. Like, when we put out our demo, Death Tremors, which I thought it was really great, but a lot of it was, like, looking back, we're like, that was a demo. Like, we put a lot of
recorded in a garage.
We put a lot of work into that. We put a lot of work into what we wanted in the album art and a lot of the album. We want to put out good quality stuff that is legit, because we're only our message, being the messenger, is only going to be as legit as our media. I mean, we can go on this whole tangent of, like, a lot of Christian media, like books, movies, cartoons. It's all really corny, and it's sometimes not really helpful for the evangelization. I would argue that we're starting to enter into a golden age of that kind of stuff, but it's the same kind of thing with us. Like, we want to be legit in how we come across. The last thing I want to mention about the artwork is because, the artwork tells a story. It actually, all the themes in the artwork are representative of what the songs are about.
Each section in there has the part of the song, and it's actually in our CD with the lyrics. The background art is of that song off the album, so you can look at it in there.
So
you got to get our CD.
And you probably saw it in the press stuff, but yeah, it's a concept album. There's a story that runs through it, and that story is represented on the album. So it's one of those things that you can contemplate and be like, wow, there's some more depth to this than I thought. So, no, thank you for the compliments. That means a lot to us and to Connor, who had the vision behind it, and also to our artist, who his stuff's getting blanketed everywhere. He's legit. We recommend him.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, I think it's kind of important to make sure. I mean, you mentioned this album is not for grandma sitting in the church pews, and I agree with that method of witness. That it's in order to be able to witness to a specific culture, you have to basically speak that culture's language. You can take it back to Paul when he was in Rome and he saw the temple that was dedicated to the unknown God, and when he went before the Romans, he didn't go, well, you guys, I see that you guys all worship false gods and that's awful and you're all going to go to hell because there's only one true God. He approached them using their language, saying, I see you're very religious. Let me tell you about this God that you made this temple to. And instead of pointing out everything people are doing wrong. And that's right. The appropriate approach. When it comes to Christian metal history, the most successful bands that have were ever able to proselytize the gospel were the ones that used the imagery and used the craft in the same way that the culture they're trying to speak to does. Brutal topics, impending doom, there will be violence, nailed, dead, risen, You get into bands like Mangled Carpenter or Abated Mass of Flesh, same thing.
Good.
I mean, even Striper, the original album cover for To Hell with the Devil was censored.
Hey, but those guys led the way, man. They were not going to back away from their vision and talk about what they're going to do, and they're still around, man. Why not?
Yeah.
Not my kind of music, but I mean, I dig on them because they're cool. I appreciate what they're doing. But yeah, they led the way.
You don't have to like Elvis to know what he did for rock and roll, man.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's right.
How can you not like Elvis?
That's a good question to raise. Yeah.
How can you not like Elvis? Yeah.
Sorry.
But we're kind of the same way, though. Like, I mean, in the Striper thing is that we're not afraid to be out there and say we're Christians. We played Diesel at, near Detroit, and it was not a Christian venue, and yet the Upside Down Cross guys that were playing after us, they love us. They're like, we love everything about you guys.
Yeah, they were great.
Yeah. So we surprise people, and of course after we play a few songs, then the Connor says, we are a Christian band and we're here to proclaim the healing powers of Jesus Christ. During our set, that gets a few eyebrows raised after we just played Vindicator.
Yeah, that was I'm glad you brought that up, Johnny, because that was a really cool story. Because we noticed it was gonna be kind of a secular set, and so we were kind of going back and forth, like, oh wow, how up front should we be? And I told Connor, I'm just like, just let the Spirit guide you. And so like he has this whole routine, like he usually announces us like before our third song, but after our first song is when he came out and said that. And he's like, we proclaim the healing ministry of Jesus Christ, and if that offends you, like,
you're about to be really hurt.
I'm not going to apologize.
Oh yeah, I'm not going to apologize. And there were some like hesitant cheers, and so it seemed to be received really well. But that became like a conversation starter after.
Yeah.
Like people, I think the music was a bridge. Like they're like, okay, you guys aren't horrible. We actually like what you're playing, so now we're open to what you're about. Like, tell us about your reception as a Christian band. And then another guy from another band came up and was just kind of sharing his experience of like, I had a really bad experience with faith. So it just kind of
hurt Christians.
It's just kind of like it kind of like opened doors. And so like I felt like it was a nudge to be like, hey, it's okay. Like don't be afraid. Don't shy away from like who you are, and we're not gonna like force it down anyone's throats, but we're also not gonna be
natural,
shy about it. And it's just, we're gonna put it out there, and we're gonna let people respond to it accordingly.
And by the way, those guys have bought our album.
Should we plug them?
They have, yeah.
Yeah, shout out to Creeping Night.
Creeping Night. What was that? The band right after us?
It was like, Influence was later. It was Arcanium.
Arcanium, yeah.
I probably got it wrong.
These dudes are all so cool. Great bands, playing great music, supporting us, and even the drummer of Arcadian, he messaged me on my Instagram. He's like, "Dude, your album is so effing good." I was like, "Man, you guys are the best." So
that's awesome.
And they didn't know anything about us, and we come in and risk, saying what we say and be who we are, and it's all for the faith. And so we're like, we have faith in God. This is what we're supposed to do. It'll come together, and it's coming together. And we're looking for more gigs so that we can continue, putting on good shows, but also bringing more people in. I think we made a turning point with that one guy. Yeah. He wanted to burn a Bible during the show. And now he's like, I'm not going to do that this time.
And they did a metal version of La Vida Loca, which is great.
That was worth the price of admission
right there. Yeah.
So it's been my experience that the secular crowd at a metal show has a tendency, as long as you're honoring the craft, they have a tendency to be more accepting of Christians entering their space than the Sunday finest church crowd accepting the metal it being introduced into their space. Have you guys run into that a lot as far as any kind of blowback from the church being like, oh, you can't be Christians making that style of music or having that kind of imagery?
Sort of, but not really. People are pretty cool with it. We get it once in a while. We might get a message on their socials that are, isn't that an oxymoron? I'm like, why? The ultimate death is Jesus dying on the cross. Definitely. Here we go.
Right. Yeah. This is a frequent discussion when we do podcasts. I feel like people want to talk about the concept of this, and the way I see it is this. I mean, there are almost everything you can do can be done for the glory of God. Now, there are some exceptions that maybe different Christians might fight amongst each other, but I think in general, like metal can be for the glory of God if we're doing it for the right purpose.
The Bible's really metal. What are you talking about?
And so it's like it all comes back to intention. I think because it's not, I guess, conventional or like what you would expect, that maybe there's that resistance. But we're all different flavors and built different ways and have different spiritualities, and that's the same to be said for metal. I mean, we're this can also be a ministry for people who want heavy music. I mean, I always say there's a time and place for praise and worship. I think there's a good place for that, and some people are really moved by that, and it's helpful for them to lift their heart and worship. But other people, they want to like get gritty and real with like how the world is and how they feel. And I always talk about the Psalms. I mean, the Psalms, they're not all happy and exciting. A lot of them are pretty brutal, and I think they make brutal song material, which is an idea floating around my brain. So, I mean, so I think it's a great discussion topic, and I'm always willing to talk about it with anybody because I want to witness to what being a Christian could look like if a Christian likes metal. Like, I think that can be a role that we play for people. Everyone has different wounds with the church. They have different reasons why they don't want to come to faith. It might have been a bad experience with somebody. It might have been like that doesn't look like me. That life doesn't look like me. That believer, they look too happy and too clappy. But maybe if they see me and they see like, wow, like he goes to church on Sunday and also likes like, pig squeals in his music. So it's getting people's attentions and we're in a society where we continue to just put people in boxes and just make assumptions about these people do these things and these people do these things. And it's like, anytime you break through that, it's like, wow, we're building bridges. So I don't know. I mean, God can use us however he wants. And that's just one thought of where this is going.
You can't stop his will.
Yeah, we're just blessed that the album is being received as it is, and people are liking it. And what else could we have asked for? I mean, literally, I think what 3 of the songs we wrote just a few months ago. I mean, just right before we went into the studio.
Yeah.
How does that happen? But for the grace of God, I mean, it just flowed through us. And then Josh comes along and he articulates and helps us build these songs so they sound like they're supposed to, and making everything come together. So if you think about it, if anybody has questions about how life can possibly work, well, God's working through us, because Matt comes along and Eric comes along and the album gets done, and it's just amazing.
We can't do this on our own. We put a lot of work into it, but it's like we can't control the reception we've gotten and the people that want to come and talk to us. Like that's all a gift. It's all a blessing.
Yeah.
And it's just a reminder of like
we're so honored. Yeah, the people are saying nice things. Really, we would like you appreciate it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some influences, like specific musical influences outside of genre. Like musically speaking, who would you say are your guys' biggest influences on what you're currently? Maybe on the Christian side or on the secular side or whatever.
Go, Eric.
You want me to
Eric's got a pretty cool layout here. Yeah.
I've never been real attracted to religious music because I didn't like how it tried to make it sound like if you find God, they will solve all your problems. And I've discovered a band called 16 Horsepower, which is like an alternative country almost, real dark mountain music. And like I saw him at a festival and all the other groups are happy and everything. And you could just see the shock on people's faces as soon as they started playing, because it was dark and it was gritty, but it was fire and brimstone, and it was just beautiful for me. And life is suffering. It's in Buddhism, it's in Christianity, it's in everything. There's always suffering there, and music should help you heal that suffering and bridges between me and God. And for me, like if I start to write lyrics for this band, that's what I would be drawing from. Musically, I listen to garbage, and that don't matter. But 16 Horsepower really changed my life and got me listening to some. And like Bloodline Calligraphy came along, and I started listening to them too. They're a thrash band from Ypsilanti, Michigan. That was fantastic. Yeah. And that's the best I can give for that.
Eric's got some eclectic tastes. That's why I wanted to hear his musical influences. But Johnny, what about you?
Yeah, mine goes pretty deep, man. There's a lot of thrash metal, a lot of death metal, old school like Sepultura. I mean, yeah. And of course the Slayers and all that stuff. We all know that, but like Meshuggah is one of my favorites. And then in the Christian side of things, come on, Broken Flesh, Made in Massive Flesh, and the list goes on and on there. But I really have a lot of the hard stuff in my genre. But yeah, we can also listen to something light and everything. Believe it or not, like bands like U2, The Police, some of those older bands like that, some of those drummers like incredible. Stuart Copeland, yeah. I mean, come on. And if somebody is playing our genre of music on the drums and they don't know some like really cool drummers that are not in our genre, you're doing yourself a disservice, because those guys do things that you speed it up or slow it way down are totally metal and brutal. So a lot of those influences as well, like that. Alex Lopez's Suicide Silence. He's like, I mean, I love that guy. He's that sound is right there. So there's a lot of influence there. I wish there was more of the Christian metal influence that I was able to gain as I've gone through, my life playing drums and bass guitar and everything. But a lot of it is the secular side, where I hate the message and I hate what they're singing about, but I just like tone it out and like listen to those drums. Dave Lombardo, man, come on, dude. He's doing some jazzy stuff now that's like, it's wild, and he's still got those lightning fast wrists, man. So a lot of influences, man. I can go on and on and on, but like Jacob takes.
Yeah, I'm gonna feel really basic compared to these guys. These guys have a lot of like depth to it, but like I'm like your stereotypical. Like I picked up a guitar because I wanted to learn Metallica, specifically Master Puppets. Like guarantee you there's like a million people out there like that. And so yeah, I was very influenced by thrash. I like it going fast and heavy. And then I got a little sprinkling and taste of all sorts of different metal, whether it's modern metalcore, the big wave in the 2000s, whether it was like All That Remains or Kill Switch, basically a lot of like modern stuff. So I think I'm definitely a metalcore boy at heart. So I try to keep that, try to tamp that down. Connor will tell me when my riffs are too metalcore. So
Matt's doing that now too. I had to tell him today. He's showing us something like it's a little metalcore.
Yeah, it's okay. There's there's a time and a place for that. But and then I think more recently, like I'm trying to really scope the depths of like Christian metal, like what does it sound like heavy and what does it sound like Christian? Like I'm always blown away by impending doom. And, but I mean, I like the legends. Like I think Demon Hunter is definitely a big pinnacle in that scene. And I'm gonna be careful how I segment this because there's always like gatekeeping in the Christian metal scene. At various times, bands that have been called Christian, like As Lay Dying and things like that. And Fit for a King is a more recent one. I like them because their lyrics are very very hope filled. That's always one thing. Metal, you want to get gritty and brutal, but like there's always that part of me like I do want to leave people some hope, and Connor does do that. You got to look at his lyrics, and a lot of them
they're good.
They end on a good message, and invoke Jesus' name too, and so it's not all like death and doom, but
it is suffering.
Yeah. So it kind of covers the gamut. So those are a few of the bands that are big for me. So
good influence.
Yeah, I don't necessarily see anything wrong with being somebody who came in on the whole Metallica hype, and surfed through the metalcore scene during the early 2000s. I mean, I challenge you to find in a room of people from between the ages of 15 to I'll say 35 who all say they like metal. I challenge you to find one who doesn't cite Metallica as being their gateway drug when it comes to metal.
I just make fun of myself because, like, unfortunately, the bigger you are, the harder they fall, and people get all like, angry at them, but I mean, the facts remain. Like they
40 years into it.
They were so influential. There's so many bands that exist because of them, but they also get beat up because they're the big guys. So it's whatever.
Yeah, and everybody doubles, man. Come on, everybody's got to like.
And the thing about it is like people talk about them. Oh, they went commercial. Oh, they sold out for money and stuff like that. And I'm like, do I have to remind you that Cannibal Corpse showed up in a Jim Carrey movie?
Oh, that's great. Thank you for making that reference. Yeah.
I think Corpse Grinder is behind that one.
Yeah.
He's a funny dude.
I mean, Chris, that was how I found out about Cannibal Corpse. I mean, up to that point, my experience in metal was, I lived through the hair metal scene of the 80s, and I was starting to ride the Metallica train at that time period. I was coming out of like, I was raised on country music, and I was starting to find my own way when it comes to picking what I enjoy listening to, and I was starting to get into Metallica and that whole thrash vibe of the early 90s. And then all of a sudden Ace Ventura came out, and I saw that, and I'm like, what the heck is this? This is amazing. And it's just like, there are a bunch of people out there who cut their teeth on Cannibal Corpse because of people going commercial and selling out. So it's just like, I don't care.
It's
that money.
A badge of honor in metal and in some music to like, be unheard of and unknown, but let's be honest.
You're also broke.
But let's be honest. Like, as musicians, we are flattered the more people listen to us, and so I mean, I think bands would do, if they put themselves in their shoes, I think they would have wanted to get into a position like that. Cannibal Corpse, they got to be who they are, in a wide ranging movie. They didn't really compromise who they were. They just showed up in a movie that a lot of people were going to see. Yeah. And look what it did for you and for them, and it's crazy. So I mean,
we're just hoping that they play a song in a Red Wings game someday.
Yeah, that's a big.
This guy's a big hockey guy. I'm thinking Red Wings are playing like Silence.
That's a big. trend recently. Where are you at, John? I know you said you were like in different time zones. So
I'm in Spokane, Washington. So if we're talking hockey, we're talking about the Kraken over here.
Yeah. Well, recently, whoever's in charge of the arena music at the Red Wings arena over here in Detroit has been like playing like Lorna Shore and like just getting away with like, you know, decently
stuff,
like, you know, acceptable 20-second clips. Like, you know, she didn't play the you know, the pig snorts at the end, but just like Black Dahlia Murder and like Lorna Shore just like casually popping into the warm up music at the Red Wings arena. So it just made me love my favorite hockey team more. So
that's why I say we as soon as they play one of our songs at a Red Wings game, we've made it.
Right.
now we know it's in the realm of possibility. We're not just like
we're gonna be good,
you know.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying we have a major audience, but I mean, if we put it out there, we can always ask our devoted geeks out there to send a message to the Red Wings Association. Be like, hey, support local music.
Get those change.org petitions going.
That's because they totally do so much.
Oh, like a big old wrestling.
Oh yeah, we should play wrestling
music.
So we've discussed influences. Let's take it to the next. Let's take it to the next logical step here. Does Voluntary Mortification do any covers live?
Well, no, not yet. We've talked about it for a while, but man, it's been a grind. We've been just trying to get
we need Matt and Eric to actually finish learning all the songs.
Yeah,
on the album.
It's like we are very busy. Like we've always like had like something on the to-do list. Like we don't just show up to practice and we're like, oh shoot, like we should like cover this. Like we've been very business oriented. We've been trying to get this album together, and then we had to then once we like got the album recording scheduled, we had to like hurry up and finish all the songs, and then we had new members and we had to like relearn the songs. So we haven't had a lot of time to focus on that. I just now started talking about doing some covers, and you talked about kind of the mid 2000s metal death scene. I think one thing that you want to do with covers is like hit that nostalgia button. So all I'll say is that we're looking at some covers that would like make people freak out, like, oh, I love this song, and
you guys can actually play it.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, that like that just hits that nostalgia like feeling. So we're just looking at it now, but we don't have any covers down pat right now. So
well, if you guys take
suggestions,
requests,
if you guys take requests,
what do you got, John?
I would love to be able to hear you guys play some. You guys familiar with the Red Chord?
Oh yeah,
I've heard of them.
Oh yeah, I think we could probably do that.
Oh, it's been so long.
It has been a long time.
They're it's like one of those I vaguely know the name. I can't even think about what they sound like.
I think we have
specifically Fixation on Plastics. That would be a fantastic song to hear by you guys.
Plastics?
Fixation on Plastics, yeah.
Check it out tonight.
I've been a fan of theirs for a while. I can see that. That would be
stoked
cool.
My curiosity to see why you've paired us with the song. So
I caught those guys back in about 2011, and I tell you what, you guys, if they ever get back together again, I would highly recommend catching them. Those guys are insane, and they're that type of secular where they're not really espousing anything that you'd be anti from the stage. It just kind of seems that way given their artwork or stuff like that. But like you take a song like the one I mentioned, Fixation on Plastics, and it's all about people being addicted to their cell phone and they can't pull themselves away from this plastic thing in your hand. It's all in how you phrase things, and that was one of the biggest things I've learned from them is, you know, you can talk about legit things in metal. You don't have to, you know, just be like, ooh, Satan, blah blah.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, like have some, you know, depth. And well, I mean that's the thing in metal is like I think people are always tempted to kind of who can go the hardest and the most extreme and like push to the limit and
just make good songs. You don't have to worry about being the best at everything. It's just make good songs.
Fun. But the other side of it though is they're on the record label side of things. You know, there's expectations that you have to fulfill towards the record label in order to catch attention. I mean, one of the most legendary Christian black metal bands out that someone could name out there. I mean, I'm sure you guys are familiar with the band Antester. Somebody?
Yeah, a little bit.
Um,
Not
so
real.
for the uninitiated, they're a Norwegian Christian black metal band. They've played with the secular Satano black metal bands. Hellhammer from Mayhem was their drummer on one of their albums.
Oh, wow.
You know, and they've been on labels like Nuclear Blast and things like that. Recently, they posted on their Facebook. They're like, "Look, you know, we've had our next album written for like the past 5 years now. You're not waiting on us to write right now. We're basically waiting to have a record label that's actually willing to back us on a project. Like, we can't sell everything we own every time we want an album, you know." And they're like, there's so many record labels out there who would be willing at the drop of a dime to book us and give us the financial backing that we need if we turn the cross upside down.
Yeah.
But because we're not willing to do that, we're going to take this album to the grave, or maybe a record label will step up. And so, you know, there's something to be said about people who are being true to metal, but in the same sense, you know, it's easy to expose that mindset, I think, just by showing that to people and be like, hey, you're following a prefabricated agenda by a record label because they think this is what sells. And unless you're willing to open your mind, beyond the stereotype of what metal is supposed to be and allow for some original thought to come into it, you're always going to be sitting in a stagnated pool of recycled garbage, basically.
Metal's such an ambiguous term. I mean, what metal? I mean, what do you can't put it in one little circle. Metal's a lot. So how do you be true to metal? Well, true to what metal?
And genre labels, you know, like they can be an invitation, but they can also be a barrier. And so one thing I've learned that I want to take to heart for me, listening to music, that I hope people will take to heart for us, is just, you know, just listen to the music and decide if you like it, and don't worry about, you know, whether it's Christian or not, sort of thing. So I mean, I think that's, you know, what any musician wants is
right.
You know, we made music for a reason. We just want people to enjoy it. You know, if we can help people, that's great. But you know, we came up with "Suffer to Rise" for a reason, for the title and the song. That's what we are doing. We are suffering to rise up to the ultimate place we want to be. And it's not, you know, peaches and cream and rose petals on this earth. It's tough.
Yeah.
We all go through our sufferings, and we want to reach out to those who are thinking that there's hopelessness, and we want to give them hope. We've all been through stuff. I've been through horrific things, and if it wasn't for the grace of God, I would be dead. So we want to pass that on through our music the best we can, and just put our faith in God that it's gonna work out. Whether we go anywhere from here or not, it's irrelevant. We've done what we wanted to do. We have more we want to do, and we're going to keep doing it. And if people like it, then we're blessed.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we are coming up at the end of our hour here. Is there anything else that you would like to say to anybody who is listening about your band, about music, about anything at all? If you were to leave on one specific message, anybody can chime in. What's one thing that you feel needs to be said before?
If you dig what we're doing and you want to try to book us for something, v.mortification booking at yahoo.com is for our bookings, so that we can meet more bands and have more fun, talk to more people. For me, that's like the next step after making an awesome album, is you go out and you play it for people, and you play it for the people that need it and want to hear it. So
please
book us. Get in touch with me. Let me know where you are at and where you want us to play and who you want us to play with, and we'll start networking and see if we can get out there.
Yeah, I would say, you know, in addition to that, like you mentioned, like Suffer to Rise, the debut album's out, and appreciate if you support us. We're available on Bandcamp, and test it out and stream us on all the different streaming platforms. But you know, if you think this is, you know, we see this as a ministry, so we're happy to say, like, if you support this and you think this is a good thing for people in general, I mean, we invite you to step up and help us support it, because obviously it's not free. So we have merch that will help us
pay for the bills,
cover the costs, go towards more fun things.
Expensive,
so, you know, we have merch available and our CDs, and we're just happy to see support either in that way or coming to see us in shows coming soon. So
and then like us on our Facebook and our Instagram. And hey, here's the thing: if you message us, we respond. We talk to everybody. And I've tried reaching out to a lot of bands and a lot of guys to see what they're doing. You never hear, they don't talk to you. So we do. I talk to everybody. If you have questions, you want to talk faith, want to talk music, I'm down.
We are highly interactive. And John, I can supply any and all links and notes, because I'm guessing you're gonna have like show notes people can click on, so they don't have to like remember. Oh yeah, how was this spelled? So there you go. Yeah,
that's been a disappointment with Facebook, where you think you're talking to somebody. It's like, oh well, I'm not them. I'm their sister's cousin's best friend's goldfish's relative.
No, we're the real deal.
The real deal. Yeah, we'll talk to everybody.
Yeah, that's always refreshing. That was how I got in contact with you guys, and it's always nice when a band is not above talking to the people who want to buy their stuff.
We should be.
Yeah,
they're probably cooler than we are.
Yeah.
We have a lot of bands that talk to us too, and it's like, you guys are way better than us, but we love you anyway. Cool. Let's hang out and talk. It doesn't matter. It's not about who's better. Let's just be a community.
Yeah. Gotta make those connections. Be humans with each other.
Thousands of drummers better than me, but that's irrelevant. I just want to hang out and talk shop, talk God, make some good music, and have some fun.
Awesome. All right, everybody. If you are listening out there and you want to support these guys, I highly recommend buying the album, buy merch, figure out a mailing address, and just send them checks in the mail, because they're worth supporting. And I'm sure they probably won't turn that down either. And if you like what you're hearing now, please like, rate, and subscribe. That helps put us in front of like-minded individuals like you. And if you feel like supporting what we're doing here with the Geek Devotions Network, please feel free to check out Geek Devotions on Patreon. That money helps us put together things like this interview and go to GeekCon in August. And please check us out at our booth in GeekCon this year from August 18th through August 21st in Shreveport, Louisiana. We're there to meet and greet. So until then, stay devoted. Peace and love. Good night, everyone.